to get in. And actually, I'm not sorry I said it at all. But where do we go from there?
Well, Yes California's new initiative, in addition to returning public land to the the indigenous nations, we're also really pushing for a consent of states for the secession. So part of what we learned during the first two initiatives is that many people outside of California would like to see California not a part of the United States. And so that encouraged leadership to pursue legislation in several red states. We need a 34-state majority to ratify the Constitution of the United States. The only time that's been done was during the original Constitutional Convention, and it hasn't been done since. And the Constitution is only ratified by Congress. And we know all too well how corrupt and beholden to corporate interests our Congress is. So the secession movement, if we get the permission of 34 red states, then we'll have a much more ironclad argument for independence. But I allocated 30 minutes for the call today, and we've gone a bit over, so I have to sign off. But thank you for having me on, Sue. Thank you for everything you do.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
Look forward to talking more in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you for being on with us, John. I'll let you go. All right, folks, I know it's only been half a show today. I just have a couple more things to say. I wanted to let you know that I will put out this link to the show on Facebook. I always do. Also on Twitter. And I will attach to it some bits about John, so you'll know who he is and what he was talking about today. And I'll attach to it also a link actually to one of my previous Medium stories that will remind you about how California will not lose anything by turning federal lands back over to their original owners and really the best suited people to be servitors of that land. So look for that, folks, and please share it. And then please note that I also publish a newsletter for CalConCon, otherwise known as California Calls for a Constitutional Convention. And I am in close contact often with John Pomeroy Jr., who you've just heard from, and others from Yes California. But CalConCon is really my main thing. And the whole secessionism movement. And I do this radio show really in order to get this kind of information out to you, information such as you only stand to gain if California returns federal lands back to their original owners, because we don't live on that land. We're not allowed by law to live on that land or do very much with it, except look at it, maybe hike in it. It's pretty, and it's doing really not very much for us other than being a beautiful natural resource. And if we turn it over, if we were to turn it back, return it to its original owners, we would curry favor with them, and they would be there in order to help us learn better ways of taking care of land so that we end up with less runoff and more food security, because they knew before we came, they knew how, and they were using really intelligent, brilliant techniques for managing the land and working with the land in the proper seasons. They were not, as we were taught when we were little, living hand to mouth. They were actually taking care of the land and sowing and harvesting, and they knew what was good to eat and when to sow it and when to harvest it, and that you don't take more than you need, because if you do that, then it won't be there when you need it later. And then the white man came and we stole the land, and we justified it by saying, oh, they're just heathens. And they were not just heathens. We wanted to make ourselves believe that. We wanted to make ourselves believe that their spirituality was for some reason less than our own spiritual belief in Christianity. And this made it justifiable for us to steal their children and steal their land. And we put their children in mission schools and cut their hair and dress them like us and brainwash them to think like us and pray like us, so that we could continue stealing the land and raping the land. And now we have done so much of this destroying of the land that, as I said before, we're beginning to have a lot more cases of COPD, and we're beginning to have a lot more cases of contaminants in the water. So we have places like Flint where it's suddenly okay for the people in charge of treating the water to do a sloppy job, and then that is covered up by the politicians of that city and state. And now Flint has no clean water because clean water bottles are being stopped in their free delivery to them. And these people still need clean water. And people in Puerto Rico still need clean water and power and shelter that they don't have, because we've forgotten that people come first. And this is yet another reason for the movement towards secessionism all over the world. It's because large bodies of government don't care. They don't care about their people that they're supposed to serve. We here in the United States pay our politicians to serve our best interest, and they are no longer doing that. They are no longer doing that for women. They're treating women as second-class citizens and sending a very clear message that they believe that rape is okay, and that it's okay to not believe women who have been victims of rape, and that it's okay to not take time for an investigation into charges of rape. They're sending a clear message that they don't care that there are babies in cages, because they're covering for the man that does that. They're backing his policies to separate families and keep babies in cages and then adopt those babies out to families that are not their own. And they're sending a clear message that they don't care about many, many different groups of people and subgroups of people that are natural citizens of the United States. And they're sending that message out to the entire world. It's for the entire world to see. It's out there, and it's affecting our reputation. And this government is also creating bad trade relations with the rest of the world, and that is hurting the economy of the entire United States. So they are being treasonous people. They are treating us treasonously rather than serving our best interests. And we need to separate ourselves from that somehow. And really our best chance is to separate ourselves with a big, clean, cold cut. It's called divorce. And if we were treated this way as a spouse in a relationship, this would be grounds for divorce. If you were treated this way by your doctor, this would be called negligence, and you could sue your doctor in a court of law and win. Your government is not sending aid to Puerto Rico. If your doctor didn't aid you when you were having a life-threatening emergency, that would be called negligence, and he would have his license revoked. So think about this, people. Think about this on this level. If someone was doing this to you, some professional, an individual professional, what would be the consequences? And why do you let your government do this to your country? Why is it different? Is it different because it's not individually you? Well, you suffer. You're suffering the consequences of your government creating this terrible, terrible reputation for you around the world, and you're suffering the consequences of trade deficit, in your paycheck. You don't realize it, but it's cutting from your paycheck. And your neighbors are perhaps suffering from your government allowing policies to be rolled back or reversed that protect your neighbors when they're working in their workplaces, like Target and Walmart and other big companies. Wherever they're working, they are no longer safe working there. They're not getting what they should be getting in terms of a paycheck because the government is allowing for these policies to slide and to not keep the working class safe and in a living wage. So let's all take some time to think about that until Thursday. I'm going to let y'all go now and hope that you will consider your vote very carefully this November. Please remember to get out there and vote for the people that you think will protect your paycheck and the reputation of the entire United States and our environment, and your right to protest. And consider looking into CalConCon and our full initiative, because it includes this idea on giving land back to our indigenous peoples that was originally theirs before we got here, before we invaded from Europe. And keep in mind that we're the invaders. They were here first. So you can't just tell a Latino-looking person or an indigenous-looking person, go back home to Mexico, because this was their home first. This was Mexico before it was California. And much of this western part of the United States was Mexico before it was California. So if they look Latino, they were here first. If they look indigenous, they were here first. And it's you who should go back to Europe. We have no roots here. Nothing. And I've said it before in other shows, so I'm not going to go into it again right now. I'm going to let y'all go. And, with the one last thought, we can do better. We can do better for ourselves. We deserve better. We deserve a better governing body. We deserve a higher caliber of politicians. We deserve politicians with some character and a moral compass and scruples. We deserve politicians that believe rape victims. We deserve politicians that care about workplace safety and about minimum wage on which we can feed our families. We shouldn't be having to work 2 and 3 and 4 jobs, each of us, in order to feed our families when the CEOs own mansions and yachts. The CEOs of those companies for which we work, they own mansions and yachts, and we're just barely making it. We deserve better, folks, and we need to vote for better. So enjoy that thought and know that it's possible, and I will catch you again on Thursday. Thanks for listening to Calexit Radio Mach 2.0. My name's Sue, and come back again Thursday. Bye-bye now.